So, hi guys, this is the video that breaks down what happened during our Hyrox event. Now, in the lead up to the Hyrox event, we had to overcome quite a lot. So, initially, I had an injury with my Achilles, which me and my coach spent a bit more time working on rather than getting straight into Hyrox prep. That meant that we had about an 8-week window where we could dial things in and go into it. Now, my coach went with the programming that he thought was best. In my opinion, it was too quick of a ramp up straight into things that I hadn't really done before, like loading the sled very heavy, pushing it way more of a distance than I needed to. And this completely flared up an issue in my hip, TFL region, which I've had for a while. And again, it just essentially got worse and worse. First week of training, 2 sessions in, hip gone, back gone. I mean, I couldn't put my shoes on to that extent. I was in crippling pain. Seeked physio straight away and went and seen really good physio who basically was like, look, we want to get you to where you need to be. At the same time, I had just managed to get a ballot place from Manchester, which was a week before Dublin, and I thought, let's do a solos while I'm prepping for the same thing. I really want to give a solos a go. Decided that was a stupid idea after paying for it. Was a charity place, so nobody really wanted it to try and sell it on or anything like that. So I decided to decline that and call it quits on sort of money. And then at the same time, I was like, right, let's see where I can get to. Basically, from that period, 4 weeks down the line, I was still doing rehab. I was literally, my training consisted of all the rehab program from the physio and literally going on the cross trainer to sort of work my sling. My coach started to program me some very light movement in terms of weight and resistance training, but there was nothing Hyrox specific at all. 4 weeks out from Dublin, started to be able to put some things together. Was still in pain at that point, was doing very adapted training, and again, nothing like perfect at all in terms of what you would expect normally for prep going into your first sort of Hyrox event. I would like to say that because of my fitness background, just general sort of having a good base level, I was able to get through things, and knowing that we would be doing a mixed doubles event with one of my clients, was going to be able to do it sort of together. So we had done some training together where we had done some sort of compromised running. We had done some training together where we had gone through all of the stations without running. And then we did about 2 weeks out, we did a sort of half sim. So it was 500 meters running and then all of the stations and weights. Now, all the stations and weights, we made sure we overloaded, and we actually did a length further each on the sled, just to make sure that we were sort of like good to go. Now, Amy, my client, so let's talk about her a little bit. She is amazing. She is a mum of 2. She is somebody who has a busy job. She's a bit older than me, so she travels to London regularly, maybe a couple of times a week for work. And despite all that, manages to fit in her training, manages to fit things into her schedule, and we work around that as her coach. Now, she came to me about a year ago, wanting to some support and help in the gym with her strength training. She had Manchester Marathon coming up and wanted to make sure that she could be the best prepared that she could be. She got through, so this year in April 2024, she got through Manchester Marathon and managed to run her first ever marathon. Alongside that, we have looked at dropping body fat. We've also managed to do that. We've managed to also PB sort of half marathons, run paces that she's never run before, lift things that she's never lifted before, feeling stronger than ever. So amazing progress. Amy also told me that when she was sort of start of lockdown period in about 2020, started to try and run for the first time ever and could barely run to the end of her road. No exaggeration from her point. She basically said I couldn't run to the end of the road, was fairly overweight and struggled basically with breathing and stuff. She used to live a lifestyle of, well, I'm not sure whether it was back then, but previously used to smoke, previously used to drink, used to live for the weekends, that kind of thing. And it's completely changed her life around. So what an amazing sort of progress she's done on herself, but also to be part of letting her to continue to challenge herself through Hyrox and through other events as well going forward is something I'm really proud of. So given that all that context, in my head I always thought that with my fitness I'll still be able to do it, but the most important part is basically matching Amy's paces with running, knowing that I can run faster, and essentially going together on stations and just kind of taking that ego away and that thought process of time and very little experience of training, getting going into this. So Amy had a knee issue flare up. She started seeking physio, something around meniscus apparently, but there is no clear definitive definition yet. Just needs to maybe get some scans done and stuff. And the idea was not to piss it off too much and basically keep on top of things and just do what we need to do. So her running definitely tapered much sooner than it needed to, whereas I started to get back into running sort of the last sort of 3 weeks prior to Hyrox. I didn't train any sleds because they flared my back up previously, so me and my coach worked on essentially sort of doing things under fatigue, like lunges, like squats, into ski ergs, into rows, and just making sure aerobic base was there, so that I could really go and give it some on race day, and then I'll get through the sleds and stuff together, you go I go sort of style. So we had planned, we had prepped, we knew kind of what we were doing in terms of stations and where we were working and how we would go. We had obviously the good prep beforehand, but even on that sort of day when we did a mini sim, Amy struggled on, we only had access to sort of treadmills. Amy struggled to run on a treadmill with her knee flaring up. So it was really actually going off my pacing of 500 meters, and I was doing it on a skill mill, which is much harder to run on. But I was then saying, right, 500 meters on, done, let's go on next station, let's go and hit it. So actually, her pacing was probably slower, probably not hitting that sort of distance. So we really have to sort of put that in the back of our minds and think, well, actually, we haven't really done that kind of training where we're running and going into stations. Now, the week leading up to Hyrox, I was thinking, great, taper week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get some training in, taper off, and then probably just do something light the day before, that kind of thing. Was going well until Tuesday. I had a bit of a tempo session on a treadmill to run. So a couple of things happened. Number one, I felt my Achilles go for the first time in many weeks since sort of rehabbing it and getting through that process and working on that. And number two was that I started to feel unwell. Something was not right in my tummy. Didn't know quite what to expect just yet. Came home, was PTing that night, came home, felt rough, went straight to bed, woke up in the middle of the night, and next minute I'm basically back into the bathroom. I won't need to go into any more details than that. Turns out I had norovirus for 2 days. So meaning that I didn't really eat for Wednesday and Thursday, and we were due to compete on Sunday, and we were due to fly out on Saturday to Dublin. So nowhere near the most ideal prep. On top of that, also started to come down with a bit of a cold and stuff, still got that now. So just really not the most ideal prep at all. We then flew out, so what I did was completely rest. I didn't even work the rest of the week. Just tried to recover and rest as much as I could and get fluids in and get sort of appetite back up again. Started to feel a little bit better each and every day, but was really feeling like quite groggy and weak, really not like myself. Went on Saturday to do basically rehab, move around a little bit, go on a ski erg a little bit, just kind of flush things out, and actually felt really weak in my legs, so knew I wasn't going to be right for race day. Flew to Dublin. We were both fairly under the weather. Amy had also caught a bit of a cold from her kids at school, so not ideal prep for either of us. We also had a problem with a hotel. So the hotel that we had originally booked, basically just not communicating back with me. I was trying to get in contact with them because they decided that originally when I had booked, it was a manned hotel, and then it had suddenly changed to an unmanned hotel where they were going to provide codes, and they failed to provide the codes for me to check into the hotel. So I'm still going through a process of trying to sort that out and get my money back. Luckily, there was another hotel that I'd already had my eye on, and that was way better as well. And actually, because I ended up booking it basically the day before we went, it worked out a little bit cheaper as well. So much better there. I think it was much better hotel and much better in terms of rest. And there was lots of people who were travelling in for Hyrox and also staying at the same hotel, which is very close to RDS Dublin. So we got caught the flight from Liverpool straight to Dublin. Managed to check in and settle in that evening. And then the next day decided that we'll go for breakfast and basically head to the venue so that we can sort of get a feel for the venue, walk around a bit, hopefully ease anxieties, get a feel for where the stations are, what it's like for bag drop, what it's like for train sort of warm-up areas and space and that kind of thing. So we did that. So we thought, okay, well, we weren't racing till 4:30, so we don't need to be there. Originally planning to get there sort of 2 hours beforehand. That allowed us to come back, have some more fuel in terms of a good lunch and some more carbohydrates in us, which we made sure we did. Went for a little walk around the park just to basically just keep moving a little bit. And then sort of started getting ready prepped. We headed to the venue. We got there for about an hour beforehand. We'd already checked in and everything, so wristbands all good, everything sorted. And we just went to go bag drop and warm-up area. And in the warm-up area, I said to Amy, we'll just do some mobility, get on a C2 bike, just sort of ease anxiety, just flush things out a little bit. Where I'm always someone who would like to warm up to the point where, especially if I'm going into a race, where just before I'm about to race, my heart rate wants to be already elevated quite a bit, feel ready and prepped, and I can go. I think Amy is quite the opposite. She likes to build up into things. Often when we will turn up and do our training together on a Saturday, she would be like, yeah, ready to go, and not really warmed up, whereas I've probably done about 45 minutes of pre-activation. So we're two sort of different sides there. I said to Amy, let's go on to like the sleds, just give it a push, let's use some wall balls, just give them a throw, just so we can make sure we feel good and that kind of thing. And they seem to move quite well. And we just did a little changeover of lunges on the sandbag just to make sure we know where we are and that kind of thing, and it was all good. We went into the race, so I said we won't go into the pen until maybe like 3-4 minutes beforehand, just so that we don't have super anxious feelings and we don't feel like, you know, we are literally, you know, going to throw up before we start. In the pen was a lovely atmosphere. It was yeah, it was a bit anxious, but we were representing Macmillan, raising money for charity. And if you know, my mum has cancer, and it is meaning a lot to me to do this, and we've managed to raise over £1,200 so far. On the back of my top, I wrote in marker pen for mum, so a bit of emotion there as well for me, just a bit of a message. We had no family, no friends with us supporting us because we were in Dublin. There was two other couples, or two other pairs who were also doing the race for Macmillan, and they had like a little sort of group handshake going with us and stuff, and it was really good. And one of them was a 76-year-old man with, I believe, his daughter, who was just really inspiring, really incredible person to see complete an event like this. And it just shows, you know, the diverse range of people being able to achieve massive goals and things. So that first run, I always said to Amy, the most important thing is that I go off your pace in terms of running. I know that I can run quicker. There's no point me pushing it, and then Amy coming into a station being absolutely gassed. So I went off her pace, sort of kept sort of contact with her and sort of talking to her, saying, "You all right?" We had it in our heads. We knew kind of like it was 3-4-3, meaning 3 laps, 4 laps for the next 7, and then 3 laps into wall balls. So I knew I was tracking that in my head. We got in, ski erg seemed sound. She goes, I go, and I finish. So 2:50 each. Timing wise seemed fine. Out onto the next run, and the next minute I was like, where's she gone? She stopped. So I was worried straight away. So I think Amy had a bit of anxiety and overwhelm from going out a little bit too hard perhaps, and also like just being very hot in there. She felt quite nauseous, she said. So I was like, right, get your breathing back, let's get through this. And then immediately my thought process started to turn away from timing and into just coach mode, and just being the best coach you can be at that point and leading as much as I could. So I did that for her. And then we went into the sleds, and I thought, with her not feeling as great, normally she would start on the sleds. I just started and essentially managed to do more than we had trained for, but it actually felt fine for me. I think with the anxiety, the nausea that Amy was feeling, I think her head had gone. The sleds are obviously different to the ones that we have in the gym. and I think she struggled to adapt and found them super heavy. So I think that I just got into her head a little bit more, and wasn't able to take that step back and breath and just think it's okay, just got to adapt my positioning or my hands or something. And then every run sort of from there, she was struggling, then her knee started to hurt more, and essentially for me it was just about trying to get her through it, and not forcing it if we didn't need to as well. Like, we don't want to cause a massive issue and injury. So basically it was all about sort of checking on her, making sure she's okay. When we went into the sled pulls, again, she found it really heavy. Our lane that we got had like a gap and a dip in it where the sled fell into the dip a couple of times. Now, a few people say that that works in your advantage. I definitely found it much sort of tougher and more friction to pull through when it was in there. And actually at one point on my last pull, the volunteer came over to help me. The judge came over to help me just wedge it out basically, and he was like, oh, it's normally easier when he goes in there, but I think because it then falls on a camber, a lot of the weight is into that side. So yeah, I did find the sleds pulling much heavier than pushing, but again, like, it was one of those things that I hadn't really trained much of, and again, I just had to adapt on race day and change technique a little bit, and we got through it. Then we went into burpee broad jumps, and I flew through them. I can't believe I flew so quickly. Amy said she kept calling me a frog. Basically just smashed him out, past everyone that was in there. Ended up 24th or 25th out of everyone on burpee broad jump station. So that's something that perhaps I excel at. Basically went until I couldn't go, and then I just need a little breather. Amy did maybe 5 or 6, and then I go again as much as I can, like fly through him, and then same again with Amy, and then I finish him off. Back into the next run, feeling good. Started to have my gel then, because that was the strategy just before rowing. And rowing was okay, apart from someone with the tiniest feet in the world must have been on the row beforehand. So Amy managed to get in, and then I went in and I just couldn't put my feet in. So kind of faffed about, wasting a little bit of time there, trying to move the foot settings a bit further back so I get my feet in, and then rowed nice and consistently, good breathing throughout. Felt fine. And then into farmers carries were also fine, but bear in mind every single run that we did, I thought we'd be able to sort of pick up the pace again. I think Amy was just really struggling. So again, we had to slow down quite a lot and stop and walk and that kind of thing. But we kept moving, and that was the most important thing. I think from all the stop-starting with walking and running, started to feel cramping up, but also probably because sort of the week leading up to wasn't ideal in terms of food, and maybe on the day, stress, a bit of anxiety as well. Wasn't as replenished as I needed to be, so felt a bit of cramping up in my hamstrings. Kind of expected it, to be fair, given that on the Saturday went to the gym and tried to do a little bit of workout, and my legs just felt dead, completely dead, like never felt that like usually. So managed to get through it though. Was worried that I'd go into sandbag lunges and think I'm going to completely cramp up here, but didn't. Somehow I just managed to get through them. And then the last run I was thinking, let's send it, let's go. Again, Amy needed to sort of stop and have a little breather, which is fine. Went to wall balls, and usually I start, so I started straight away, hit out about 25-30, and then swapped with Amy, and I think Amy's head and her knee and everything was just gone, and she just struggled to basically hit the target. The volunteer and the judge on the day was lovely, really supportive, really helpful, but essentially, wouldn't score certain reps if they didn't hit the target or were just a bit too low. So she was kind of grimacing, looking at me, thinking, poor boy, you're going to have to go back in again, poor man. But anyway, we did it. I trained like that, knowing that it was perhaps one of Amy's weaker stations. So most of my training, when I started to feel better, I would add on 100 wall balls at the end, and break them up in 20, 30, 25, whatever. So I knew that I could always achieve 100 if I needed to. Probably did maybe 85, 90, something like that overall. And then that's it, run to the line, and we hit the time of 1 hour and 32. So given the whole context of everything, very happy with how we've gone, managed to get through it, managed to coach a client through it. I don't know many other coaches who are able to sort of do that, take their ego away and just go, yeah, right, in this moment in time, I'm just going to get you through it, I'm going to do it together. I'm super proud of her, super proud of both of us to get through what we've done, despite illnesses, despite injuries, etc. And it just goes to show what you can do if you put your mind to things. So going forward from here, I've got an absolute buzz from doing Hyrox. So a couple more patches. We managed to get 2 because Matt Millen also gave out these patches. And obviously you get your normal one from each event that you do. And I'd love to collect some more. I know that Manchester is coming up in January. It's all completely sold out, but sometimes they do offer maybe last minute tickets like they did for Manchester just recently, if it's 3 or 4 weeks out. So if there's an opportunity to maybe do a solos or a men's doubles, I'd love to do it, yeah, more for me, without charity sort of involved. And if I'm strong and feeling good, I'd love to give it a proper good go, as well as just to see kind of where my body's at and where I'm at. And other than that, it'll be into sort of marathon training prep for April. So that's it going forward. That's the wrap up of the plan. I'd highly recommend a Hyrox to anybody. I feel like there's such a diverse range out there. There is a lot of very, very fit people out there as well, but don't get put off by that, because anyone can do anything. And the most important thing with a Hyrox event is all about your pacing and just going at the pace that you can withstand. Coming back to the guy who was 76 years old, as we were finishing, we walked off the stage, getting our hydration in, having a sit down, getting our breath back, getting our picture done. We started walking back round, and I saw them, I couldn't believe it, that they were already at the Wallball station and just finished. And I think they finished in like 1 hour 45, 1 hour 46, something like that. So it just goes to show, like, age is only a number, and if you pace correctly and just completely be consistent with that, you can achieve anything you want to achieve. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up this video now. That is the breakdown of Hyrox from sort of beginning to end, and I look forward to doing one again in the future.